We are live. Last live hangout was Halloween, I think. This is number 29. I did say at one point I was prepared to do one every week, but I mean, I think once every 2 weeks is all I can manage as things stand. I've had quite a lot on the last few weeks. I've been working on another project, the British Prudery Archive, which you'll find in the subdirectory on my main website. We've got a lot of ground to cover. The main theme for tonight is the Lunatic Fringe, but we've got, as I say, we've got a lot to cover. Besides that, a lot of news. Not to have a lot on, but changing the weather isn't my neck any good. So anyway, my medical problems another thing. Well, I'm going through some things in no particular order. Starting with something I found today, which is absolutely outrageous. This was these rape crisis fanatics are trying to. They're fiddling with the law. Well, with rape in Scotland. They're trying to get a law. Proposed new law to enable rape victims to refer themselves for forensic medical examination without having to contact police. Has been launched at Hollywood. I've done this. I dealt with this before. Basically, there's an article of mine, the rape crisis, the truth about the rape crisis network, and it was also a live hangout on the rape crisis network, another one on the sexual grievance industry, which overlaps. But basically, these women, what they want is more convictions, and they don't care how they get them. The problem with this, they launched this. This was done in Britain a while back, in England a while back, presumably England and Wales. A woman will go to a rape crisis centre, or go to a hospital, claim she's been raped. She'll have a sexual assault referral kit, a sexual a SARC, a rape kit carried out, and then she'll decide over the next 12 months if she wants to go ahead with the prosecution, if she wants to inform the police. Well, there are many problems with this. The main thing is that a lot of these women don't seem to understand what rape is. If you think that sounds ridiculous, take a look at the website of Rape Crisis Surrey and Southwark, and there's information on there which is not information, which claims that basically if a woman has sex with a man and she don't want to, then she's been raped. If it says you don't have to say no or resist. Well, if you don't say no or resist, I mean, this is it's absolutely outrageous that this sort of rubbish is being, and men's lives are being destroyed by this. Young men's lives are being destroyed. Anyway, I saw this on the Scotsman website. I've written to Hollywood. I don't. It's just outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And these women are cancer, and the whole rape crisis industry, the whole sexual grievance industry should be shut down. If a woman is raped, she should go to the police. This is full stop, end of. I found an article here which was absolutely. I really don't know what planet these women are living on. This is from The Guardian. More women say Birmingham University refused to instigate rape complaints. Growing outcry of students at university refuse to look into complaints of sexual violence. Again, this is not a matter for this is not a matter for universities. If a woman is attacked, if she's raped, she should scream, bite, claw, and go to the police immediately, police, and seek medical attention. This is absolutely. Nicole, not her real name, twice asked the university to launch a formal investigation, but she's investigation staff told her there were no specific procedures to deal with rape complaints, so no action could be taken. Well, it's all anonymous rubbish. She and other women come forward after another graduate, Alice, not her real name, told the Guardian University refused to investigate a rape complaint against a male student because it has alleged incident took place at a private student accommodation. Well, this, if you're burgled, if you're stabbed, you don't go to. This is absolutely. I shouldn't laugh at this, but it's difficult not to laugh. It's absolutely outrageous. We've got here. It's a video report here. This is. Forget what this is. It's from November 22nd. Oh yeah. Oh, so, yeah. Would you believe it? Yeah. That's, I'll deal with that later. Peter Saunders, the founder of NAPAC, has been sacked. Asked to resign, i.e., sacked from this charity. If you haven't heard of NAPAC, you'll find it on the timeline. The link for it is file 1066. That isn't based in Hastings. It's where are we? It's it's file 1066. In 2008, he met a woman who claimed to have been sexually abused during when she was a kid, and they had a restaurant, a meal in a restaurant. He went to the toilet. She followed him in, performed a sex act on him, or they had sex. He didn't specify. Then she accused him of rape, and this only came out this year. I think August it came out. And this arsehole has been leading the crusade against celebrities falsely accused and the mythical paedophile ring. It's just absolutely ridiculous. What have we got here? This is an article from The Independent. I found this today. This is absolutely absurd. 5-year-old autistic boy put on record as sex offender after hugging classmate. I mean, this is in Chattanooga. I mean, the teacher told her he'd be accused of sexual activities for hugging a child and kissing another on the cheek. Well, when I was a kid, there was a game called Kiss Chase. I don't think I ever played it myself. I think the girls were meant to chase boys, and you ran away from them. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And this one is equally ludicrous. It's just. This is from Utah. Utah woman charged after burying breasts in front of stepchildren. Utah woman charged after burying breasts in front of stepchildren. She wants the law changed. So, I mean, on Tuesday, attorneys for Utah woman who consider herself a feminist I was charged in February with 3 counts of misdemeanor lewdness. I mean, it's absolute. Tilly Buchanan. I mean, she was walking around the house, bare-breasted. kids aged 9 to 13. I mean, absolutely absurd. I mean, just absolutely absurd. I just don't know where to go from here. Cuba Gooding Good Junior case. I found this earlier in the week. It's in court now. Dozen women ready to testify against Cuba Gooding Jr. at groping trial, say prosecutors. Yeah, well, they would do, wouldn't they? I mean, just he's indicted on a new charge. Gloria Aura doesn't turn attention to it. Alex Salmond, I think he's the First Minister of Scotland, he's currently on trial for attempted rape and another number of other various offences. Women's who come forward months and years later claim they're just ludicrous. Lord Bramall has died. If you haven't heard of Lord Bramall, he was Britain's most senior soldier. He was one of the people who was caught up in this ludicrous VRP paedophile scam, which Saunders was heavily involved with. The big story, of course, is Prince Andrew is back in. He's in the news with that whore Virginia Roberts. Let's have a look here. This is a video. The Prince gave an interview. On the anger. This is Australian television here. We gave an interview to Emily Maitlis of the BBC, and he didn't go down until it was called a car crash interview. I didn't think it was that bad, actually. Sorry about the yawning. I mean, I'm keeping strange hours, as I usually do. Strange for other people, not for me. He was he gave an interview to Emily Maitlis. He didn't deny ever meeting Roberts, Virginia Roberts. He said he had no recollection of meeting her, probably either diplomatic or thought if he'd denied it and she called her a liar and she'd sue him or something. But I mean, if that photograph is genuine, so what? And here's part of her talking on Australian television here.
As a young child, Virginia's life was all about horses and climbing trees, more a tomboy than a princess. But then at 7, she was repeatedly sexually abused by a family friend. By 13, she had fallen victim to 2 other pedophiles.
My life just changed and it diminished that light that was in me.
Well, whenever a woman says she was sexually abused as a child, was anyone convicted? And she was sexually abused by two paedophiles later, before she met Epstein. No, Epstein was not a paedophile. He was. I mean, what he did was, the real scandal is not what he was doing. It was the fact that there's a massive cover up. And he got away with a slap on the wrist. He should have been doing a lot more. I mean, the age of consent in Florida is 18, but he was using girls of 14. Probably not. There's been suggested some were younger than that, but certainly girls of 14 for massage, isn't it? Now, 1 or 2 have claimed since, if not since his death, and certainly very, very recently, that they were actually raped by him. I mean, if that is the case, I don't know. I mean, it's if that were the case, then he deserved a hard time. Well, now he's dead. So, But you know, he was recruiting girls of underage, but he wasn't going out, you know, molesting 8-year-old kids and such. He was corrupting girls who, like Roberts, didn't need much corrupting. Now, she claimed, I think she claimed at one point she was 14 when she met him. Documentation shows that she was 16, perhaps 17, because she claims she was working at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's place. So, I mean, that she wasn't underage. She wasn't underage. She wouldn't have been underage in this country. It has to be stressed again that she is not a victim. She's certainly not a survivor. And Prince Andrew did nothing wrong. In 2015, she reported to the Metropolitan Police that she'd been trafficked. This as one more time. Sex trafficking is the narrative of the anti-prostitution industry and feminism. They're using this against prostitution. Virginia Roberts was a prostitute. She was a whore. Right? She sold her body for money. She was a whore, and she's still a whore as far as I'm concerned. As far as Anna Dershowitz is concerned, she has a photograph of herself with Prince Andrew. She said she's paid to have sex with him, and so forced to have sex with him, raped. No. I mean, look at that photograph. Is that shows a teenage girl having fun? So this is absolute garbage. She came to the UK with Epstein, and after that, he sent her to Thailand. Right? This is not the life of a sex slave. What happened was, in Thailand, she met her future husband, who obviously didn't mind when he kissed her, didn't mind the taste of Epstein's dick in his mouth. Took her back to the outback. She's now a mother of 3, and she's cashing in her chips. Who's paying for her, I don't know. Tabloids, whatever. By her own admission, she procured girls for Epstein, right? So the idea that Prince Andrew should be behind bars, coming from that whore, no. If there's anyone who should be behind bars, it's her. So this is just total junk. You know, even if she were actually a known prostitute, so what? You know, if you look at the history of the royals in this country, kings had, well, not just here but elsewhere, kings had courtesans, which are what? Yeah. I don't know. You like to use high class for the prostitutes. One of our kings had, I think, 5 mistresses. They had babies out of wedlock. You know, this was accepted. So don't. Lady Colin Campbell summed up this case. You know, this woman, she's a total whore. And nothing. She's a liar as well. Nothing she says should be taken seriously. This is just unbelievable. Here we are. If you're aware of the latest lunatic who accused Donald Trump of rape, this is E. Jean Carroll. She claimed that she was raped by Trump in the lingerie department of Bergdorf Goodman about 1994-95. Bergdorf Goodman is a bit like Harrods in the UK. She's suing Trump for defamation because he denied it. Well, and it's an article here by some stupid feminist academic. Trump for defamation. Was it E.G. Carroll sued Trump for defamation as a last resort. Blame the statute of limitations. No. If you haven't seen it, I made a short video, about a minute and a half video, which I put on BitChute. Other people have done it as well. I mean, somebody found out that in 2012 there was a crime drama in America, Law and Order, in that a judge had a fantasy of raping a woman in the lingerie department of Bergdorf Goodman. This woman is just, she claims she told 2 people at the time. Of course she did. I've no doubt that if you had any money left, O.J. Simpson could come up with a couple of alibi witnesses for the double murder he committed. No, I mean, this is just ludicrous. And there's, I mean, that moron Jessica Valenti has also claimed that she wrote an article, "Our Rapist President." These women, they don't seem to realise that if the patriarchy did exist, why is it employing them? I mean, just absolutely ludicrous. What have we got here now? This is that's another one. Yeah, I'll deal with that when I come to the main Lunatic Fringe. Let's make a note of that. They're just absolutely insane, these bitches. Yeah, really insane. Another video here. What's the comments turned off? Why are comments turned off? If people don't comment on them. Yeah, it's another human trafficking nonsense. We've got another one here. All right. This is it's yet another one about sex trafficking. Got a story here about a bloke who got sacked. Sarah. Who? Oh, I know. I don't know. Put on 2 URLs together. No. Take that out of the beginning. Take that out of the beginning. Here we go. Oh, well, what's going on here? Sarah. Hyde Peters. Zara Hyde Peters. What's it? This is Zara Hyde Peters. Yeah, I'll give you half a minute. Yeah, Zara Hyde Peters loses top athletics job over claims about husband. Yeah, this is outrageous. This is a woman who. I mean, how far are they going to take this nonsense? Her husband was supposed to have had an inappropriate relationship. Inappropriate. But her husband was sometime supposed to have an inappropriate relationship with a 15-year-old schoolgirl. She was she's supposed to failed to alert members of Coventry Godiva Harriers, and RP is accused of failure to alert club. There can be no compromise on welfare and safeguarding. So the sins of the fathers, now sins of the husbands. I mean, it's just absolute hysteria. So this Me Too rubbish and sex hysteria does affect you too, ladies. There's another idiot here, described herself as angry feminist writer, Maura Donegan, who where are we? This is another of those idiots who claim Maura Donegan. She's obviously a total moron. E.G. Carroll's lawsuit against Trump is a victory for sexual assault survivors. Yeah, she's got she on Twitter. She's angry feminist. I think angry feminist. Angry feminist writer. I mean, they're just totally, and they never. Evidence suggests that police do not take sexual assault as seriously as they do other violent crimes. Well, not imaginary ones, anyway. No, I mean that's in the Guardian. It's disgraceful. This sort of rubbish is published. There's another one here about Kavanagh. Where is it? There's one here about Roman Polanski. This is a woman accuses Roman Polanski of rape her in 1975 when she was 18. I find that very, very unlikely. This is in France. In view of, if you're not familiar with the Polanski case, he was the husband of Sharon Tate, the actress who was murdered by the Manson gang. It may have been that he went a bit funny after that. He was actually a suspect at one point, even though he was out of the country at the time. He drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl, Samantha Gaynor. He was convicted of that. It says here statutory rape. It wasn't statutory rape, it was rape. Rape. Let's call it what it is. And he was up for sentencing and he fled the country, and of course he hasn't been back since. And I think very unlikely that he would have done anything. I mean, utterly insane for him to do anything like that in France while he was. But it's 1975, so I mean, the point is, people are beginning to catch on now. Even some feminists, I think, are beginning to catch on that. If men are condemned for this sort of nonsense, they just there's another one here. Kavanaugh should never have been appointed. Impeachment was only hope. This is by that same arsehole Maura Donegan. Just while this man would never have been appointed to court, best we go before his impeachment. This was September. I mean, these are just absolutely horrible people. Multiply accused. It seems even more likely it did before the US Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh is indeed a serial sexual assaulter. Just absolutely. It's unbelievable. These women, we really do need not just statutes of limitations, but heavy penalties, very heavy penalties for women falsely accused men of rape. Just absolute. I mean, the way this. I don't usually feel sorry for judges, but I really do feel sorry for this bloke. The way he's been treated, it's absolutely outrageous. Just to try, they did everything to stop him being appointed to the High Court, to the Supreme Court. I should mention here Susan Smith, It's not slightly off topic, but it's shows that some blokes really do keep their brains inside their trousers. If you're not familiar with Susan Smith, she's a woman from I think South Carolina. In 1994, I think it was. I mean, she's all over YouTube. She was carjacked by a black dude who drove off with a car with her 2 young sons on the back seat, and there was a big hunt and that, and a lot of caused a lot of ill feeling. And sometime later, she led the police to the lake where she'd driven the car into the lake with her 2 young sons, drowned them. And I found that on YouTube. Some dude uploaded a recent video to her about her on her birthday, and he said that two prison guards had been, I think they were sacked for having sex with her. I mean, why would anyone? I mean, she was quite attractive when she was young. She's still, for her age, I suppose she's quite physically attractive. But why would any man with half a brain want to have sex with a woman who committed such an heinous crime as that? You know, I mean, it's just and to throw away his job for a bunk up. It's just. There's another one here for the timeline, which where are we? A bloke named Bradshaw in a barman in Chattanooga he offered a woman a lift, and then she accused him of rape. There was no sex at all, and this is a clip from the local press.
A Chattanooga man's rape charges have been dropped after he spent 7 months in jail. Bobby Bradshaw was working at Hair of the Dog pub in July when he met a woman who told police he kidnapped and raped her. DNA results came back in February and did not include Bradshaw's DNA. Records show the woman was charged with filing a false report in a sexual assault case in 2012. She also pleaded guilty to tampering with evidence in 2009. She's been arrested again and reportedly had sex with a Warren County deputy on the trip to the jail.
These blokes, they really, I mean, they're like, I've either got to be desperate or sick or whatever. I mean, how insane are they? They just, so that's Susan Smith and Bradshaw. Okay, now we come to Lunatic Fringe. There's some overlap here with previous videos from trawling and weaponisation. My video about trawling and weaponisation. Statutes and limitations that are very important. Not all weaponisation is due to women. I think many of these sexual harassment claims are coming out. Not, they used to get rid of male employees, including executives, for various reasons. Right, I've got another video here. I think it's Lunatic Fringe. This.
I have numerous examples of these networks of abuse and the individuals involved publicly exposed on my websites. Since I have been non-violently campaigning in and around Edinburgh against these crimes, I have been arrested around 8 times by Lothian and Borders police over the last 2 years. Although I have been charged with breach of the peace and failing to give a DNA sample on each of these arrests.
So that's a bloke in Scotland who's been making false allegations against people. The police will when they're absolutely blatant, they will take. That's a bloke named mispronounced his name, Farker. George Farker, I think his name is. But they will take action against these lunatics. Now, when I say lunatic fringe, I mean there are people out there who believe that not just. I mean, we know there were sickos. There's a serial rape. I think I call him serial rapist rather than alleged serial rapist. On trial at the moment for. I mean, he's accused. I mean, he went on a rompage, and he's going to go down forever and a day. There are sick people out there, and sometimes, like, I mean, they've been known to work in. To work in 2 or 3 of them, or even in gangs. I mean, do such a thing as gang rape after all. But hello, whoever you are. I've just started on the Lunatic Fringe part of the. This is about the Lunatic Fringe. I've just been doing news and other things. You'll be able to catch up on this early next month. Well, the next few days it should be live on YouTube. After this is after I've made this, I edit it down, edit out the stuff at the beginning, and then it goes live. And I also edit it into archive. So thank you for coming. Close that far. There are some sick people out there. I mean, California, for example, there was Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. Lake committed suicide. Ng is still in prison. There was Bittaker and Norris, who are still in prison. Bittaker's been on death row for over 30 years. There was Kent Bianchi and Angelo Bono. Bono died quite a few years ago now. So, I mean, these were men who tortured people, tortured England and Lake, not just women but men as well, and they videoed it. So there were sick people out there. I mean, there was Tracy Wigginton, Australia's lesbian vampire, who I think has been paroled now. I think she's been paroled. She was released from prison. It was 2012. Oh, well. So there are sick. There are sick. Hello again, whoever you are. There are sick people out there, but the Lunatic Fringe, they believe that there is a vast network of paedophiles, sex traffickers. What have we got here? This is from South Africa. Satanic ritual at school kills pupil. That may be true. Actually, I haven't looked at that, but the idea that the authorities, that the Freemasons, the Illuminati, you pick your devil, they control everything, and they're covering up for these organised gangs are part of it. It's just absolutely absurd. This cannot happen under so-called liberal democracies. Now, if you want to find examples of I mean, the Chicago Rippers, that was a really horrible case. They killed about 14 or 16. Right. now this is my own personal experience of a member of the Lunatic Fringe, because I actually know the woman, Sabine McNeill, who's currently serving a 9-year sentence. The Hampstead Satanic abuse case was now what happened was there was a woman named what's her name, Ella Draper, who was a thoroughly evil woman. She had 2 kids. I think his daughter was older than the son. And she and her husband, Ricky Dearman, parted company. Ricky Dearman was an actor. And Draper and her lover, Abraham Christie, decided to frame him for child sexual abuse, which can be done. I mean, there's a thing called parental alienation syndrome. Kids can be indoctrinated. But what they did was something very, very different. They claimed that he was running a satanic network in Hampstead, and that all sorts of absolutely ludicrous claims that kids were being brought in from Africa, being baked in pies in the local McDonald's. Really absurd. I mean, absurd stuff. I'll give you the link for my 1852 in there. It's satanic. There's actually a very good blog being set up by people to expose it called Hoaxstead. The police looked into this. I mean, to make sure there was no actual abuse going on, and there was a family court judgment which runs to 165 paragraphs. The crazies got hold of it, and they couldn't let it go. And one of these crazies is a woman named Sabine McNeill. She's been described as evil, the most evil troll ever. No, she's not. She's just incredibly gullible. Sabine has a stratospheric IQ and no common sense at all. I met her back in the 1990s through the Christian Council for Monetary Justice. She's very heavily involved in financial reform. But she started getting involved with these people campaigning as a Mackenzie friend. There's a woman called Belinda Mackenzie. A Mackenzie friend is somebody you can take along to court to help you with, in a civil case, to help you with you're not. And Mackenzie friend isn't right in order. I've actually had a Mackenzie friend more than once, but it's to help you with a case. A woman named Belinda Mackenzie, I presume the name is a coincidence, who's a fairly wealthy, horrible woman, toxic bitch. she got involved with Belinda Mackenzie. There's a nutter named Neelu Berry who was she and Sabine were doing all sorts of stuff. Names of people meant to be members of this satanic abuse ring were posted. They were sending them hate mail. They end up on the website of Veterans Today. Their names, addresses, people get death threats and that. I went along to what happened was that they warning after warning. They appeared at Blackfriars Crown Court, and then Sabine kept doing it, and eventually she was remanded in custody for quite a long time. And she went along. She was tried at Southwark Crown Court, and she ended up getting 9 years. I went along for one morning, and it was November 28th. I've got some notes here I made about it. November 28th, 2018. I arrived quite late, about 20 minutes or so left before lunch. The previous day, I checked the counter for the defunct website I used to write for. The counter's still working, and it was I'm surprised that an article I'd written about her called Tragedies of Sabine McNeill had 161 views from November 20th. When I checked Google News, I realised why. She was on trial again, and 4 counts of harassment, 17 breaches of restraining orders. And she really lost the plot, you know. She was literally making stuff up. And I went along. The Daily Mail said she was on trial at Blackfriars Crown Court on Southwark, but it was actually Blackfriars. You have to sign in downstairs at the court, which I don't remember doing that before. And then you have to sign in at the court door too, presumably because of the nature of the trial. In the afternoon, we were asked not only to sign in, but for ID, something I found odd. There didn't appear to be much activity in the building. Sabine was using a crutch, sitting in a closed dock, as though she was some kind of terrorist. She doesn't look much older than when I saw her last. She's about 74 now, 75. And she had a large Amen corner in attendance, including Belinda Mackenzie. Belinda Mackenzie's a witch. She's a really old witch. She was a young bloke. I'm a very poor judge of ages, but he looked like he was still a teenager. And he told me he'd been sectioned at one point. That much I can believe. And he had a 5-year restraining order against him. And the stuff these people believe is truly amazing. 2 witnesses were heard when I was there. I've got their names, but the names are injuncted, so I won't give them out. They've been through enough, actually. They're both married women and mothers. One of them, her husband was there, and he wasn't very happy at all. Outside the court, he was talking to a police officer. I heard him swear, threatening to punch somebody's lights out. I didn't realise this guy was a police officer the way he was dressed. So at the entrance to the court was a small room earmarked for defence counsel. He was there with a barrister, prosecution in this case. And the main reason I didn't realise he was a police officer was because he was wearing a pink tie and matching shirt. And the kid I mentioned, the one who was re-sectioned, said he dressed like that for... What was he dressed like that for? I said not entirely seriously, perhaps he's homosexual. Or he replied, why does he have to flaunt it? I mean, the stuff he and the others were saying is absolutely beyond belief. They believe all this grand conspiracy of paedophiles who control everything. I asked him if the woman was a paedophile. He said, this is what I was caught broke up for lunch. He said, maybe. I asked him, am I a paedophile? So he replied, I could be a paedophile protector. I told him at some point I knew Sabine from her financial reform days. And added this was the biggest scam in history. And bigger than raping children, he showed. I said, yes, a real... the financial reform was the biggest scam in history. And he said, bigger than raping children. And I said, yes, a real financial scam is bigger than any imaginary rape for children. They're absolutely crazy, these people. They believe all this stuff about babies being murdered, the police covering it up. Shortly I got talking to a bloke who said he was a lawyer, an equity lawyer. He's been back in the news. He actually was a lawyer. William Ellis, he was struck off on November 2nd, 2006. He isn't a crook, I have to stress that, but he certainly has a strange way of communicating with his clients. You'll find details about him on the Solicitors Tribunal website. I'm sure they're still there. But this young kid, I got to talk to this lawyer downstairs. He was going on about the proceedings should have been halted because they were affected by fraud. He threw all sorts of things about a secret agreement between David Cameron and Barack Obama. I asked him if David Cameron was a paedophile. He said, definitely not. When I asked Theresa May, he said, I'm not sure. He wasn't so sure. So they're absolutely batshit crazy. So I looked him up that night, and he's actually got a URL here. Well, you'll find the total nutters. But there's really no arguing with them. Now, the police do get up to all sorts of horrible stuff. You know, look up the Mark Kennedy case. You know, and what's been happening to Donald Trump now with the coup. It's actually a coup. If you read the documents unearthed by Judicial Watch, John Solomon and others, it's just a coup. But you know that and you know this lunacy about babies being sacrificed to the devil and it baked in pies and 9/11 truth. When the court finished for the day, the judge made an order 4 YouTube videos be taken down, and those similar were still there from a year or 2 years ago. I actually reported 2 of them myself, and nothing was done. By contrast, my video about the wicked old woman Gina Turgle, look her up. Notorious Holocaust liar kicks the bucket. That was pulled by a video containing nothing truthful. That was taken down from YouTube. I had a strike on my account. That's now on BitChute. But as I said many times before, Sabine has a stratospheric IQ, not a nanogram of common sense. They'll believe any crackpot allegation against the government, but they won't even entertain the possibility that anyone on their own side has been less than honest with them, to put it mildly. Now, some of the things that problems she claimed to be tackling are real. I mean, forced adoption. There is actually mean, there are forced adoptions, but I saw one case on the news a while back. A woman had, she was a drug addict. She'd been pregnant something like 15 times, and the authorities taking the baby away from her every time. These are women who aren't fit to be, certainly aren't fit to be mothers, you know. But there have been cases where there's an MP now who was nearly subject to forced adoption because she was depressed during her pregnancy or after. I mean, pregnant woman depressed, new mother depressed. Wow, that's news. And family courts, they say these are family secret courts. They're not secret courts. They're you know, they're to protect the privacy of kids. I wasn't that side of the crown. I wasn't eavesdropping. I heard one of those clowns saying that GCHQ had diverted his emails. Not that GCHQ had been listening to him specifically, but he received not received specific email accounts on he not received specific emails on account of his activities. After the court, it was adjourned for the day. I went to the court manager's office to inquire about reporting restrictions, and they treated me like a joke. Kept me hanging around for the best part of half an hour. I saw a woman I was led to believe was a court manager who told me the restrictions were absolute and that nothing was to be reported. As there were no reports in the press, I took her word. And when I found reports on the Hampstead blog, I left a comment to that effect, and it was deleted. Shortly, I learned the judge was aware of the blog, and it was clear this bitch had lied to me. You know, the court officials do that, as do police officers all the time. Police officers are notorious for it. And if anything, female police officers are worse than male officers. Female detectives are worse than all. I intended to go to court on December 6th as Sabine been cross-examined, but I decided against it because reporting on the Hampstead blog, which was excellent. I found a new website, a new government website, which gives exhibit.gov.uk, which gives details of proceedings. It wasn't just Veterans Today that parroted this nonsense. The UK column is, I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a bloke called Brian Gerrish and Company. They were reporting on it. I exchanged emails with this bloke, and he's, Alexander, blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, he's spoken to these people and he's convinced of their sincerity. But they give conspiracy theorists a bad reputation. I mean, there are a lot of conspirators out there, official conspirators. Ask Donald Trump. These people give conspiracy theories a bad reputation. So that's a total nutter there. I actually wrote to Sabine in prison. She replied. She gave me. I think she didn't make an apology of sorts, but it's clear that from her reply that she hasn't changed her view. She gave me listed two books to read. I looked them up, and basically they're all revealed. It's all revealed truth. You think if there were satanic rituals going on and babies being murdered by the score, that there would be some physical evidence, but there never is. Right, another head case is Melanie Shaw. You'll find her on the you'll find her on the Falls Rope timeline. If you don't know, the Falls Rope timeline now has its own domain. Thanks to I've dumped a lot. Actually, this is the subject of my October 31st live hangout. We now have our own domain. Melanie Shaw. She was she wasn't convicted of on October 16th, 2018. She was at Leeds Crown Court, where she was found to have committed three counts of arson. It was a trial of fact because she was found unfit to plead. A trial of fact is where you have somebody who's away with the fairies and they decide. Hello, whoever you are. just to say that if you obviously just come, this video will be going live in a few days, and at the beginning of next month it will be on the Internet Archive. This is number 29, so there's lots of live hangouts. So please check them out. Please check out the False Rape Timeline, falserape.timeline.org. When she was young, Melanie Shaw spent some time in Beechwood. That's a community home, Beechwood Community House, which became the subject of historical child sexual abuse allegations when a former resident was brought to attention of Nottinghamshire Police. This was in August 2010. As is often the case, the allegations are mushroomed, and I've no doubt that most of them were false, but there was a bloke convicted. A bloke named Ivan Bethel was charged with a number of historical events. He actually pleaded guilty, and he got a 15-year sentence. So these things do happen. It's possible Melanie Shaw was physically abused at Beechwood, maybe given a slap or two. She says she was sexually abused. I don't know, but the things she's saying are so far off the planet. Just the UK column reported on her case. These people are total idiots. They claim she was tried by a secret court. No, she wasn't tried by a secret court. Any allegations involving minors are always subject to severe reporting restrictions in the UK, and mostly everywhere else. In May 2012, she was convicted of driving without a proper licence. On July 19, 2011, disqualified for 6 months and fined. On July 17, 2014, the Nottingham Post reported she'd been accused of setting fire to a house. On October 31st, the same paper reported Shaw being convicted of an arson, throwing paint at the home to one of the victims. She was bailed. Now I've got here. This is on the page. A short extract from a long video about an interview. This is an interview with one of the victims.
My name's Alison Ellis. I'm the mother of the teenager who Melanie Shaw who appeared in court for, amongst other charges, what she was up for. I do believe it was for malicious and threatening behaviour, and she pleaded guilty to it, and yesterday she was sentenced.
What did she get as far as the sentence was concerned?
Regarding my daughter, she got a fine and court costs, because the nature of the charge and what's been involved over the months, and also it's of a very similar nature to other charges which Melanie was up in court for.
Right.
Basically, 4 restraining orders were placed on Mel Shaw for life. If she breaks these, i.e. if she puts anything on the media, i.e. Facebook, any form of media, Facebook, YouTube, regarding my daughter, or
the court case itself, or anybody to do with witnesses or something, was it?
Well, anything to do with the court case, directly to do with my daughter, or indirectly published on the Facebook, on the YouTube, on any forms of messaging, the judge has told her she will get 5 years imprisonment, and this is a lifetime restraining order.
That's an ordinary woman. So look, these lunatics, they don't just target celebrities. They don't just accuse Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, whoever of rape. At times they target ordinary people. Right now it comes to the Hollie Greig campaign. This is Hollie Greig is let's get on the page here. I needed notes, but this started in the summer of 2000. this has been all over the alternative media. Mainstream media has by and large given it a miss. Hollie Greig is a Mongol. Her mother is an imbecile. This is in Scotland. Hollie was meant to have told her mother, Anne Greig, that she was sexually abused by her father. And to cut a long story short, he was supposed to have shared or hired out his daughter a paedophile ring. Police were called to investigate. No credible evidence was found. Social workers found nothing. And it went all the way up to the high and mighty of the legal establishment in Scotland, including imaginary people, at least one imaginary person. Belinda Mackenzie, who I mentioned before, had a hand in this. A bloke named Robert Green appeared on the scene, and he sounds incredibly plausible. He's got this English accent, this posh English accent, which Americans are so taken in by. And the whole, they started this Hollie Greig campaign, and eventually the authorities moved against Green. He ended up, he was showing leaflets to people's doors, accusing their neighbours of being paedophiles, and he ended up, I think, Stonehaven. He was contempt of court or something. He's done 2 sentences, but there's no dissuading these nutters. Now, they target ordinary people as well. This is Sylvia Major and Wynne Dragon talking about the way they were targeted by these lunatics. This is not on my site, by the way, but it's on YouTube.
Well, Dennis is my cousin, so I didn't know Anne until she married Dennis in the early 70s, mid-70s.
I became really close friends with Anne, Dennis, and Greg and Hollie.
As you can probably tell, these are not young women. Not young women. I'll give you the URL.
Hollie must have been about 16, 17. And they were a lovely family, a pleasure to visit. And we had holidays with them.
That's the URL.
We had Sunday trips. It was just a lovely friendship. And to this day, I miss her a lot. But
yes, I met her when she was born, obviously, for about a year. I met her a couple of times. And then she cut herself off from all the family for about 16, 17 years. So I never saw her or her parents until Hollie was about 17, 18. None of the family did. She moved away and didn't communicate with anybody.
So neither of you ladies knew Hollie when she was a 6-year-old?
Oh, no. She was a baby last time I saw her.
And they were living in Brazil when Hollie was 6 years old.
And so what sort of things did you do together?
Oh, we went shopping, we would go run.
I'll run it on a bit.
I have no idea. I never even had a crossword with her.
Jealousy because you were close to Dennis.
Yes, probably. She was a very jealous, insanely jealous person. But
I'm not too sure, but she was convinced that her mother must have had a lot of money, and there appeared to be none. But I think this situation arose after
Roy
Roy's
committed suicide.
And I knew it was suicide.
She was shocked at that, as she would be.
Of course she was.
Yes.
But she was in the doubt of it being suicide then.
No, it was only after she got in contact with Robert Green that she
fantasized her.
Yes, but perhaps he was murdered.
Yeah.
It would have been after her brother's suicide. She got worse.
She became obsessed.
Yes, that's when the marriage broke down because of it.
And this business of Dennis beating her up is absolute rubbish. And I was there the night that Dennis was supposed to have thrown a hoover at her. Well, she was in hysterics and phoned me to come round. And
anyway, the Hollie Greig fantasy started with this woman, Anne Greig, who sort of lost the plot and lost everything else. Esther Baker was back in the news. She's certainly a member of the Lunatic Fringe. She claimed to have been sexually abused as a child by a member of Parliament in the forest, while police officers stood guard. And the Sky News, and they took this nutter seriously. She even looks like a nutter and sounds like a nutter. The MP was John Hemming. He's no longer an MP. I had some correspondence with him, and she sued him for libel for denying it. This is something Gloria Allred started in the United States with the Cosby case, and now we're seeing this that Eugene Carroll's trying it with Trump. She's lost a lot. She's a total nutter. And how can I put it? When I discovered her, she had 31,000 followers on Twitter. I don't know what she's got now, but let's have a look here. Yeah, she's a total nutter. She's got. I'm sure it says 3,849. I'm sure it's 31,000. It was well in. No, it must. I'm sure it must have been. Unless she's got a different. It's got a new account, but she had thousands of. I swear it was 31,000 rather than 3,100. But I had 29 followers on Twitter, not 29,000, 29. And this is, she was getting this publicity. So she sued Hemming for libel. She lost. And there's an article from the Birmingham Post here, November 14th. Former MP John Hemming has lodged a formal complaint against two Birmingham political big hitters, who he claims had waked to a woman's unsubstantiated claims against him. Unsubstantiated being a word. I mean, Esther Baker lives on a different planet from the rest of us. At the High Court, Miss Baker, she was banned from trying to hold the allegations about abuse she made against the former MP papers. The judge ruled her denial that her allegation of rape and sexual abuse on the defendant were untrue should be struck out of documents. The former IOTA MP lived on a shadow cloak for more than 4 years. As you said, some death threats. Henry's now complained to the Labour Party. But comments made by Tom Watson. Well, surprise, surprise. I mean, it's absolutely total lunatic. Total lunatic. I don't know how much of this is madness and how much is malice, but there's what's the it's a phrase, Latin. It means it means habitual lying. It's I can't remember it now, but it'll come back to me. But she was total, absolutely outrageous, and of course there's no comeback against them. Still a subject of the Lunatic Fringe. Ted Gunderson, I think I may have mentioned him before. He was an FBI agent. He was so well thought of at one time. He was mooted as a future director. After he retired, he went into a private practice doing private sampling, and because of his credentials, and he became convinced that there was a Satanist controlling this, that, and the other. And because of his credentials, he was given a lot of airtime by media who should know better. And there's a very good video about him. Death of a Public Paranoid, which you'll find on YouTube in 2 parts. I edited it into an archive in 1 part. It's by the Satanic Temple. If you haven't heard of the Satanic Temple, don't be put off by the name. It's an atheist sort of thing. But they campaign to get religion out of the public sphere. But as I forget the guy's name, Julian something, Julian Greaves or something. It's a very good lecture, illustrated lecture. Ted Gunderson, Death of a Public Paranoid, very good. Where are we now? Oh, I thought I lost it. So in Australia, there's a woman named Fiona Barnett. If you haven't heard about her, if you haven't heard about her or of her, or if you haven't heard from her, this is this lunatic from Australia.
This program contains content that may concern some viewers.
This video has been classified as M. It is recommended for people aged 15 years and over.
But now to another example of sensational crime reporting and some far more remarkable allegations aired in the media 10 days ago.
A woman who says she was the victim of an alleged pedophile ring operating in the 1970s has made explosive claims in Sydney today. Fiona Barnett spoke at a press conference along with members of abuse survivor group SNAP.
I was prostituted to pedophile parties at Parliament House, Canberra. The people involved in this elite pedophile ring included high-ranking politicians, police and judiciary.
And that was just the start of it. Barnett.
It sounds a bit like Virginia Roberts. This is the link to the video on my on someone. Fiona Barnett is a woe of the SNAP it's an American organisation, Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. You'll find them on the timeline as well. Why these people have any credibility at all just beggars belief. If you haven't heard of Kathy O'Brien, she's an American nutter who accused Hillary Clinton of rape. Not Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. I was doing some research the other day. I'm adding a great deal to the timeline of late because I've been working on my other project, as I said, the British Prudery Archive. But I found this is the Times, March the 13th, 1990. NSPCC says ritual child abuse rife. Harrowing cases detailed in a report by Society. And children as young as 5 are being forced to take part in bizarre sex and satanic rituals, the National Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Children said yesterday. And it goes on and on. Like that. You find it on the timeline. And this is one that like to have forgotten. Karen Jones in brackets, i.e. not a real name, was sexually abused by her father with her 10-year-old brother copying his example. She complained to her teacher and the NSPCC arranged her to demonstrate the abuse in the presence of a policewoman using anatomically correct dolls. Although her father denied the allegations and the prosecution filed for lack of evidence, both children were placed with foster parents. So they've succeeded in breaking up a happy home. A happy home with one disturbed young child. It's just unbelievable. To show the difference between real victims and head cases and the way genuine cases are dealt with. I've done some research like that. Now, there's a case from this is October 1986. Indio, it's an American case. A rape attempt was forwarded here Saturday when the victim fought her attacker and attracted the attention of passers-by, police said. Albert Perez, 22, of India, was arrested in connection with the morning incident, which occurred near the Traveller's Lodge. So it was women do fight back, and children fight back as well a lot of the time. I was doing some research, something unrelated, and the Coventry Evening Telegraph of November the 1st. Was this November 1st? Coventry Evening Telegraph, November 1st, 1979. There's a big story of a 15-year-old girl was raped. It was a genuine rape in a copse at Coventry. Halloween night stroll turned into a nightmare last night for a young courting couple. A 15-year-old girl was raped as her boyfriend, aged 16, was forced to look on. After raping the girl, the masked man forced the two strangers to have intercourse. He watched them before. This is a massive story in Coventry. I'm not sure they caught anybody for it, but it was, they put in a lot of effort. Here, this is doing what they shouldn't. This is from 2002. 3 blokes gave an older woman a lift in a car. She had sex with one of them. She ended up having sex with all 3 of them. And I'm not putting this on a timeline because they bloody well asked for it. But comment about victim blaming. One of the things that the sexual grievances always come out with is blaming the victims. Well, okay. Here is this is a documentary called Hog Trail Murders. It's a bloke named Daniel Conahan. What he would do, he was a homosexual, and he would say to a guy, "You want to make $200?" and he'd take the guy into the woods and tie him to a tree. He was a photography shoot, apparently. He was convicted of 1 murder. He talked to murdered 15. And this is, if you advise a bloke not to go into the woods with a strange man and let tie to a tree, even if he offers you $200, is that victim blaming, or is it common sense? Is it common sense telling women not to get so plastered that they don't realise that they women to get drunk and then get into a car with men they don't know? Is that victim blaming, or is it just common sense? And I thought this is something very interesting here. This is this is from the it's just same date. Yeah, November 3rd. This is Coventry Evening Telegraph, November 3rd, 1979. Page 4, page 9. Yeah. Is that the right date? Yeah, November 3rd, 1979, page 9. Man had woolly jumper fixation. A man said to have a fixation about woolly jumpers was sent to prison for 6 months for stealing them by Coventry magistrates. Sidney Lamb, yeah, the Sidney Lamb of 95 Queen Victoria Road admits to 3 charges stealing woolly goods from store. He said of a fixation. Now this is like the Sully Challing case, which I mentioned recently. Dependent personality disorder. These are mental disorders, not really mental disorders. These women who, how can I put it? A mental disorder is not a disorder as such. It's a description of behaviour. So if a woman claims to have murdered somebody because, as in the Channing case, they added false allegations of marital rape for appeal. it's just a cop out. It's complete garbage. But I mean, some of these syndrome cases are bordering on the lunatic fringe. And I'll finish up with a mention of trafficking. I think this is one of the videos. Where is it? Yeah, I think this is one of them.
Kind of thing. So have you done anything that's been kind of like?
This is the case from the United States. Where else?
But not only does it happen here, Ontario has recently been called a
Canada.
major hub, one that ensnares local women in a brutal criminal underworld. Tonight, we'll hear from one of its survivors, trafficked throughout the Niagara, Hamilton, and Brantford region since she was 13 years old. Her childhood was one of sex work, family coercion, and drug abuse. Grishma is with us in our studio, and we're going to identify her only by her first name.
And I'll give you the URL. This is Human Trafficking, a Personal Story. The agenda is Steve Pakin. Where are we? This woman, she's quite fresh-faced, actually. She's 30 years old. You know, if she had been to a fraction of what she claimed to have been to, she would not be as physically attractive as she is facial-wise. Yeah, she's good looking. She's you know, I mean, okay, they put on makeup under studio lights and that. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these videos on YouTube of women who claim to have been trafficked. As I said before, there are four narratives of prostitution. There's the original one, which is the fallen woman, the biblical harlot, the Victorian unfortunate. Second wave feminism came along, and they called prostitution. They equated prostitution with rape, and some of them pornography with rape, if you can believe that. Then the sex industry struck back, prostitutes, and now you got all sorts of people working in the sex industry who couldn't possibly be described as prostitutes, porn stars, and people doing all sorts of things. Yeah, photographers and such, people who code websites. They struck back with sex work is work, or sex work is real work. To combat that, the anti-prostitution industry, the Christian right, and these horrible feminists of McKinnon flavour, third wave feminism, has come up with the sex trafficking narrative. And they come with all sorts of ludicrous stuff about the average age of entry to sex trade is 13, yada yada yada. It's all bullshit. This woman.
Also with us, Katarina McLeod, founder and crisis counselor at Rising Angels. That's an organization that helps women who want to exit the sex trade. How do you
No, this McLeod woman, she's got tattoos up both arms and a stud in her chin, and she looks really rough. I mean, if women want to get out, if the women are working in the sex trade, they want to get out, fair enough, you know. You know, the idea that they're trapped. I mean, as I said, I keep strange hours. I might go to my local shop, 24-hour shop at 2:30 in the morning, and sometimes there'll be a bloke there cleaning up rubbish. He doesn't want to do that either. Earlier this year, I went out, and there were guys from the water board. There were pipes had burst. Other times there'll be electric workers. These are blokes. Some of them are well paid. Some of them are not so well paid, but they'll, you know, turn out all sorts of hours. You can make out a case for people become trapped by their lifestyles. Yes, if women want to exit prostitution, fine, but let's call it what it is, right? A lot of these women go into it because it's easy money. It can be very well paid, but it's a short lifespan, and of course there are risks with it.
Hi, thank you for being here. I know this is difficult stuff to talk about, and I appreciate you putting really a human face on something we hear about often from an academic or political side, but rarely from people like yourself. So I want to thank you for that first. I want you to take me back to 1997. You were 13 years old. How do you get into the world of human trafficking? How does that happen?
Well, for Karishma, she was 13, and it was somebody that she knew. And they just kind of, she was friends with them already, and there was a relationship built. So there was trust built.
So you hear this all the time. They've all got this story. They've all been sexually abused, sometimes by their own fathers, by neighbours and stuff. They're sexually abused as kids, and they go on to become prostitutes and drug addicts. And it's always somebody else's fault. And it's all bullshit. It can happen. But if you look at the timeline, the case of Somali man, that was that's from Cambodia. The lies she told, and her star catch long pros. So it's this woman's. When she starts talking, she sounds very rational, but as you listen to more and more, you think this can't possibly be true. And lots of these cases like that. These women are away with the fairies. Some of them are crooks. They're making money out of it. And some like Teal Swan claim to have been really batshit crazy stuff. And whenever they start talking about being pimped out to judges and politicians, I mean, I know that the Epstein case is still ongoing, and that there was a big cover up there. But do I think Bill Gates was involved and Bill Clinton? No. It's most overwhelmingly these women are away with the fairies. It's passing the buck. It's always a man's fault, never their fault. That's that one about human trafficking.
And they ended up luring her into the sex trade, taking her out to truck stops and having her servicemen there. So she lived this pretty normal life. In the daytime, she would go to school, and at nighttime, she was being trafficked.
It's just complete garbage, honestly. 13-year-olds. But if you take a gander at some of these cases on YouTube and listen with a critical ear, right? Sometimes their so-called traffickers will be arrested. They get fairly light sentences. Why do you think that is? Because the claim they were gang raped and as part of a ritual to break them down is all bullshit. So anyway, thank you for coming. It's been quite long. I'll put this. I'll set this to private first thing. When I've finished it, and it'll be available on YouTube and then later on into archive. I haven't done a lot to the full scope timeline the past week. I'll over the next couple of weeks I had a few more cases, but got the latest entry is for what's the latest entry? I've got one which was it came to court this month, but it's from earlier this year. A bloke in Singapore, I think it was, claimed to have been buggered by his chum, drugged and buggered. But I'll be adding some more old cases as well. But I want to do some more videos. Thank you for coming. anyone who's any questions, you can you know where I am, and I hope that Scotland won't go the same way as England with regard to this allowing women to carry out a rape kit and then report. You know, if a woman is raped, she needs to report it at once. End of. Not to think about it for, not to think about a sordid sexual encounter for a consensual sexual encounter for weeks, rewrite it in a tiny mind as rape, as happens, as you'll find this on the timeline. Many cases of regret sex on there. Okay, thank you for coming, and this is the end of this live stream.